let's talk about the last position we need to address in free agency, talking about the last line of defense, this safeties. I'm going to give you my analysis and grades for all the top moves at the position so far in free agency. But before we begin officially, hope you all are having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you're listening to the Shumake Take. Hope you all are doing very well. As you know, again, we're talking about safeties. It is a beautiful Saturday morning. Got the sun shining in right here. Mouth is a little dry, but we're going to truck through it. We'll be okay. Shorter video today. We only got 9 moves to talk about at the safety position. 10 moves, actually, but they are all pretty solid moves, if I do say so myself. Before we jump in, if you're new around here on the channel and you like the content, please consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button. It helps the channel out tremendously. It's free. If it's free, it's for me. You know what I'm saying? Only takes a couple of seconds, and it helps me continue to grow and spread my football passion to more and more people on the platform. We're trying to hit 50 subscribers, so live streaming will be available to us, and then we want to hit 100 subscribers before the season begins. That way we go into the 2025 season with a new community, and with its business is going to be booming, right? So that's the goals. So please hit the like and subscribe button, and we will get there soon enough. So let's jump right into these free agency safety moves, starting with probably the biggest one. The Broncos signing former 49er safety Talanoa Hufanga, a 3-year deal worth up to $45 million with $20 million fully guaranteed. This one's an A. Straight up solid A. Reuniting with Dre Greenlaw, who I talked about in my linebacker free agency video, which you should check out after this one. He reunites with his former teammate, and Talanoa Hufanga is a really good player, right? He had a down year in 2024, but he was an All-Pro in 2023, and it adds a back-end boost to the Broncos secondary that I think they needed last year. Their secondary was okay for Denver, but it was definitely heavily carried by Patrick Surtain, who won Defensive Player of the Year for his efforts. So adding a guy like Hufanga, who is a rangy type of player, to my knowledge, right? I think he might be more of like a box type of defender. The thing is, 49ers, I'm not really too commonly like in the loop on the 49ers players for the most part, right? Outside of like some of the most notable ones. That's just really weird. Like the 49ers are a weird team for me to cover. Throughout the entire year, it was a weird team for me to cover. But I know Talanoa Hufanga, Jesus, I just woke up like 30 minutes ago, so this is going to be interesting. But Hufanga is a really good player, and to add to a secondary that does need some help, and they also dealt with injuries last year, which does not look great when you talk about Talanoa Hufanga, who's coming off of an injury, right? But I feel like there's enough upside here, obviously, with the player where, yeah, you're getting in Pro Bowl level player guaranteed, I think. All Pro, you could be pushing it, but you are definitely getting at least a Pro Bowl level player, so that is worth something, and I think he'll be a big boost in the secondary with the defense under Vance Joseph that I think will utilize him very, very well. Next up, the Colts signed former Viking safety Cam Bynum, a 4-year deal worth $60 million. This one's also another A. Cam Bynum was a big part of the secondary in Minnesota, one of the better safeties in the league. He had 3 picks, nearly 100 tackles, and he's only 26 years old, so he can be a part of this rebuilding defense for the foreseeable future. And it's another player that, like Charvarius Ward, is a proven player. The Colts are trying to revamp their defense, and while I believe their defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo was a mistake, at least it seems like their process is right, bringing in players that, while they may not be the absolute best, Cam Bynum is definitely better than Charvarius Ward, right? But both of these are players that are proven commodities in the NFL. And for the Colts defense that was so bad, I think signing proven commodities to add to your defense, I think is a good move. Because you're not trying to break the bank and really overhaul this defense. While sure it probably needs it to a certain extent, right now you can't fix it all in one offseason, right? So you got to add players now where the secondary was probably the worst part of that defense, and you add a guy in the back end like Cam Bynum, who's only 26 years old, who's going to be there for a while and give you high-level play, hopefully for that entire length of his contract. So getting a guy like that and adding to your secondary is huge. I love the move. It was a good deal as well. So that's an A move for me. Next up, the Giants sign. Oh, whoops. All right, there we go. My script slid a little bit too far past. The Giants signed Jevon Holland, formerly of the Miami Dolphins, signing a 3-year, $45 million deal that includes $30 million in guarantees. This one's a B+. Jevon Holland's only 26 years old, so he's also another one of these young safeties, and he's going to help a secondary that was absolutely awful in New York. You pair him with Tyler Nubin, right? I think he was out of Minnesota, right? Their second-round pick. And I think it could be a solid safety duo, honestly. And you pair that with young corner Paulson Adebo, which they signed in free agency. And now you have a secondary that's full of youth, but also full of talent, which if you get the right coaching in New York, which is the biggest question mark, okay, like you have the foundation here for a solid secondary. It's only a matter of what we will see when the season rolls around. But right now, for a signing, I really like the move in Jevon Holland. Because like I mentioned, he is only 26 years old, which is nice. And he got hurt in 2023, and since he has not been the same, right, compared to when he first got into the league, but when he was at the beginning was here in the first couple of years in the league, he looked like he could emerge as one of the league's top safeties. It looked like a steal, I think it was picked in day 3, I'm pretty sure, in the draft, but either way, he definitely looked like a really good safety at the start of his career, and then the injury kind of held him back, and he hasn't been much of the same. But also, that Miami Dolphins defense dealt with a major issue, and that being the offense being terrible. And what that ended up happening was the defense trying to really overcompensate for their offensive woes, and it caused Jevon Holland, along with everybody else, to try and be more aggressive, and it allowed him to get beat a lot. So the thing is, Jevon Holland is just his rare blend of physical tools, his versatile skill set, along with his age and what they're trying to do in New York. If this move hits, this could be one of those moves in free agency that we look back on that really hit, if that makes sense, right? Like, we're talking about a potential to be the best not best free agency signing. Oh, no, not even close. But this could be one of the best safety free agency signing moves, if not the best. And for a Giants team that's, kind of trying to prove that they're middling around and could be competitive, well, adding Jevon Holland is a player that's going to help you do that. So I can get behind it. Solid B+ for that move. Next up, the Carolina Panthers signing former Raiders safety Tre'Von Moehrig, a 3-year deal worth $51 million with a max value of $60 million. This one is also a B+. Tre'Von Moehrig had a really good 2024 season and was one of those few bright spots on the Raiders defense that I have talked about, kind of like his former teammate Nate Hobbs, who went to the Green Bay Packers. He's a very instinctual downhill box safety that was great in run defense and provided a lot of juice rushing the passer as well. He's going to be a good addition to the back end of what was one of the worst defenses in the league in 2024. And they also locked down corner J.C. Horn, who is one of the best corners in the NFL. So you add a guy like Tre'Von Moehrig, who is, well, he's not going to be patrolling the back end, which they lost one of those players in free agency, which it was actually Xavier Woods, who went to the Titans, by the way, but that's besides the point. Tre'Von Moehrig is a guy who you can move around. Like, he's like a Jamal Adams where, right, he's that downhill box safety, like I mentioned, but also like, you can put him in nickel and dime packages, and he can cover like the mid-range of the field, or like cover like a flat route, right? So like he can do coverage stuff. It's just he's better known for his run stuffing, pass rushing, like that box safety ability. But that's a very talented player that's still young, where, okay, you can insert that into a Panthers defense where you're so bad, you don't even need, like, I mean, sure, you want scheme fit, right? But right now, the Panthers just need talent on defense. And Tre'Von Moehrig is a guy that brings a ton of talent to that defense. And again, and for a unit in the secondary, that was one of the worst in football. So I can get behind it. I really like the move. I like the talent. I like the player. So very solid move for the Carolina Panthers. Next up, the Saints. So I'm going to move this a little bit closer to me, actually, so I'm not like reaching across the entire length of the table to go move my script, and we'll get back into position here. Bam. The Saints sign safety Justin Reid, formerly of the Chiefs. reuniting with Tyrann Mathieu. Wait, Tyrann Mathieu's gone, isn't he? I can't remember anymore. Oh my goodness. But either way, Justin Reid signed a 3-year, $31.5 million deal with $22 million fully guaranteed. I'm giving this one a B-. Not because Justin Reid is not a good player. He's a really good player. And obviously won Super Bowls in Kansas City. It was a mainstay in that secondary for a while. But the thing is, he's a really good player, like I mentioned. He has a lot of experience and a lot of durability, which for the Saints, their secondary was decimated with injuries. That's a really good move there. And my problem with it is that he's 28 years old. And so by the time the Saints could actually get somewhere, his contract will be up and he'll be 31 years old. And so he won't really be there, theoretically, by the time the Saints are actually ready to compete. Which, sure, I guess you need a player to help you, build now. But I've been an advocate that the Saints need to tear everything down and rebuild from scratch. Because the cap situation that they're in, this is awful. Like, the Saints can't keep kicking the can down the road over and over and over again with contract restructures and dead money. Like, no, at some point, they need to just eat their medicine, eat a bunch of dead cap for the next couple of years, be a bad football team, and just get it leveled out, right? But that's a different conversation for another day, which I actually already talked about. So if you want to check out the Saints predictions versus God, my throat is dry. The Saints predictions versus reality video, which I will throw in a card up here right now if you want to go check that out after this video. But it's just a terrible situation for the Saints because they're just going to keep kicking the can down the road. And sure, Justin Reid is an improvement and will definitely help this secondary. I'm not going to say it won't, but just with what I believe the Saints need to do to fix their football team, I just don't appreciate the move of signing Justin Reid because it shows that they're not going to change. But as a player himself, Justin Reid's a great signing. I like the move. Brings a lot of durability to a secondary that was really, really injured last year. Next up, the Texans. Our first trade on the list. The Texans trade for veteran safety from the Philadelphia Eagles, CJ Gardner-Johnson, acquired along with a 2026 6th-round pick. And the Eagles get guard Kenyon Green and a 2026 5th-rounder. This one's a B+ because CJ Gardner-Johnson, he's a veteran player. He's been with the Eagles forever. He's been with a couple other teams as well. Obviously, he just came off of a Super Bowl win. And CJ Gardner-Johnson's a guy who plays well. He brings moxie as well. And at the very least, CJ Gardner-Johnson's a player that will add depth after the Texans lost Jalen Petrie to injury last year. So at least it'll act as insurance. But overall, I mean, I think CJ Gardner-Johnson's going to be a decent player for the Houston Texans and kind of just bring I don't know if it's like a 1-year deal. I can't remember how many years are left on his contract, but it's going to bring some veteran experience. It's going to bring some durability and reliability in a secondary that dealt with a couple injuries, like I mentioned with Jalen Petrie. So I can appreciate the move. It's just, who's going to block? Who's going to block for CJ Stroud? Good move, but who's going to block for CJ Stroud? That's all I'm at. That's all I want to know in Houston right now. But back to CJ. It's a good move. I like it. Veteran, durable player, and at least will provide insurance for a secondary that was injured. But overall, solid move by the Houston Texans. Next up, the Jaguars sign Eric Murray, a 3-year, $22.5 million deal, $12 million guaranteed. This one's a solid B. Eric Murray is 31 years old, but he is still a good piece nonetheless. While his coverage has been up and down and been iffy, he's a good tackler and he's also really good in the run game. So I expect him to move around a little bit. So the versatility is really, really good. It's just 31 years old. You're on a rebuilding defense. I don't know if you need to get older. I would say you need to get younger. But if you sign a guy like Eric Murray for 2 reasons. One, you want experience in your rebuilding team, which for the player, I like it, but it could also indicate that Jacksonville's looking to take a big step forward next year. They're thinking that Eric Murray won't just be like a part of a rebuilding defense. They think this defense can make a jump in 2025 to where you go from bad to at least league average and be a competitive unit on that side of the ball. So maybe that's what their plan is. And if that's the case, then I can get behind an Eric Murray signing, right? If you look at the process. But in my opinion, for a 31-year-old safety on a defense as bad as Jacksonville's and all the work that they need in the secondary, I think they could use. I think they couldn't have used like a younger safety. Like I feel like a Jevon Holland would have made a little bit more sense just given the age gap and the timeline of the Jacksonville Jaguars. But this could indicate something bigger that, we might not be expecting. So who knows? Well, we will see, which will be fun to talk about here back or once August rolls around. But overall, it's a good move. I can respect it. Overall, good move for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Next up, the Bills re-signed Damar Hamlin on a 1-year, $2 million deal. This one's another solid B because obviously Damar Hamlin's story is a wild story, right? In that game against Cincinnati and getting to where he is today. But as a player in 2024, Damar Hamlin, it was his first year as a true starter, and I thought he played all right. He had some ups and downs, but definitely he had more good than bad. And I think for a player like Damar Hamlin you bring him back for another year, it helps keep continuity for a secondary that really does need some pieces. They traded away former first-round pick Kyer Elam to Dallas, which I did not talk about in my cornerback video just because I was like, okay, it's his former first-round pick that's kind of busted out at this point. He's already been benched and he's no longer a starter. So kind of tough. But at the same time, Damar Hamlin, the continuity part is important, but also it also prevents the Bills to have to add another piece in the secondary, which already needs a piece or two. So keeping one of those guys around just fills a hole, and you're getting a quality starter in Damar Hamlin. So keeping him around it's more beneficial than it is not. So I can respect keeping Damar Hamlin around.
Hey, this is Editor Garrett here. We're about to talk about Andre Cisco, and in this segment, I talked about how Andre Cisco is a veteran who brings a lot of experience to the Jets defense. That's a lie. Andre Cisco is 24 years old, and I did not know that and learn about that until after I recorded this segment. So anything I say about him being a veteran with experience, just completely disregarded. My grade for him doesn't change. It still remains as a B, but I wanted to make that quick correction for you guys before you guys heard me blabble about something completely wrong. I apologize. Anyway, here is Andre Cisco. Back to the video.
Then the second to last move, the Jets sign a former Seahawks safety, formerly of the Jaguars, that before that, Andre Cisco, a 1-year deal worth up to $10 million. This one's a solid B, very solid player. Spent the last year in Seattle, like I mentioned, then Jacksonville before that. He's a very versatile player. He can move around the defense, and he's probably going to play a Kirby Joseph type of role for Aaron Glenn. Maybe, is it Kirby Joseph or Brian Branch that he plays more? I always mix those two up. I apologize. But he's going to be playing like one of those players, which Aaron Glenn is coming from Detroit, of course, obviously. So I think the fit is really nice. And for a player that's still a little bit of a veteran, right? He's played in the league for a while, so the experience is also appreciated with signing a younger corner like Brandon Stevens, for example. Sauce Gardner is a younger corner. So adding a scheme fit, versatile player like Andre Cisco in the back end of the secondary, right, who should also play more of a leadership role as well, will help the defense in the secondary a lot, I think. And while he's not going to give you like top tier play, I think you just need solid play. I think that's all you need from Andre Cisco, so I can really get behind the move. So for a defense that's trying to build consistency, I can appreciate it. Lastly, as I scroll down for a moment, we're going to talk about the Chargers extending Elijah Molden, a 3-year, $18 million extension that includes $13 million in guaranteed. This one's a B. Elijah Molden was the one I was going to talk about in my corner video, but I was like, well, no, he's actually a safety more than he is a corner. So I can get behind re-signing Elijah Molden, who quite frankly had a career year with the LA Chargers. He was traded to LA last offseason from the Tennessee Titans, where he was okay. It was just he was talented, but never talented enough to be a starter. And then he goes and becomes a starter in the Chargers defense, balls out, plays really well, and then gets a very well-deserved contract extension. And he emerged as a reliable playmaker for the Chargers, extremely versatile. Like I mentioned, you can move him around in a bunch of different spots. He is another one of those guys where, yeah, he can play in the box. He's nasty in run defense, a very physical, willing tackler, right? But also, like, he's grown where, okay, you can patrol him deep in the middle of the field, and like he can come downhill and make a play like on a short route, and also he can cover tight ends, which is another versatile aspect of his game. And with his age, he was more than worth keeping around. I really like keeping Elijah Molden, which adding Dante Jackson, who's a veteran corner, I think keeping a player around that still has some youth in that secondary is really important as that defense continues to build over these next couple of seasons. But with that being said, that is going to do it. We have reached the bottom of the list. Thank you guys so much for watching if you've made it this far. And if you have, please make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button. It's free, only takes a couple of seconds, and it helps the channel out tremendously as I grow and spread my football passion to more and more people. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Whether you think I missed a player that I should have talked about more, which player do you think I got wrong in my analysis, and do I give the wrong grade? Also, if you're a fan of one of these players that lost the player or gained the player, what are your thoughts on this player joining or leaving your football team? I want to hear all your thoughts in the comments down below. Lastly, make sure you guys share the video, whether it's by word of mouth or by social media, getting everybody locked in and locked on to the Shumake podcast. I come up with great content for you guys every single week. Next week, we have the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins video coming out along with social media, so make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook, all of it, right? And then along with the T. Higgins, Jamar Chase video, I will start uploading at least one Titans video every single week because now I get to talk about the Titans and talk about my favorite team openly, so that's going to be fun. So Titans fans that are out there, a new challenger has entered the ring. But with that being said, that will do it for me today, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed. And as always, I will see you all next time.